The ancient hourglass had been in Leo's family for generations, its smooth wooden frame worn shiny by countless turning hands. According to family legend, it didn't just measure time, it revealed how much a person had wasted. Leo considered this nonsense, of course. At 17, he believed time was endless and tomorrow was a promise, not a threat. But on the morning of his high school graduation, when he flipped the hourglass instead of attending the ceremony, Leo discovered the terrifying truth about time and why we only value it when there's almost none left. Leo mastered the art of postponement before he mastered tying his shoes. Why do today what you can put off until tomorrow wasn't just his motto, it was his religion. His room was a museum of unfinished projects, a half-built robot gathering dust on his desk, a language learning app frozen on day 3, a guitar with only one string that he'd get around to restringing. His parents had long given up nagging, his teachers had stopped expecting completed assignments, and even his friends knew better than to rely on him for anything time-sensitive. The world moved in fast forward around Leo, while he remained stubbornly paused. The graduation ceremony began at 2 p.m. At 1:45, Leo's cap and gown lay discarded on his bed as he scrolled through social media, watching classmates post excitedly about their futures. Plenty of time, he told himself, flipping the family hourglass just to watch the sand fall. Something strange happened then. The moment the first grain of sand touched the bottom chamber, Leo's room dissolved around him. Suddenly, he was 25, sitting in a drab office cubicle, staring at a spreadsheet while his boss criticized his incomplete work. "You had all week for this, Leo," the man sighed. "Time management isn't rocket science." Before Leo could respond, the world blurred again. Now he was 35, standing outside a hospital nursery, watching other new fathers cradle their infants while he nervously checked his phone. He'd forgotten to submit an important insurance form. His wife's disappointed expression cut deeper than any words. The hourglass flipped itself again. Age 45 found Leo visiting his parents' empty house after their move to a retirement community. Boxes of his childhood belongings sat in the garage, filled with half-finished science projects, partially learned language textbooks, and abandoned dreams. "We kept thinking you'd come back for these," his mother said gently, her hair now completely white. Leo's throat tightened as he realized he'd been meaning to visit for 6 months. Another flip. At 55, Leo sat across from his teenage son, who was failing math. "I'll start studying tomorrow, Dad," the boy promised, eyes glued to his video game. Leo saw himself reflected in his son's dismissive shrug and felt a chill that had nothing to do with the room's temperature. The final flip brought Leo to 75, sitting alone on a park bench watching children play. His hands were empty, no books he'd written, no albums he'd recorded, no projects he'd completed, just a lifetime of tomorrows that had finally run out. The hourglass appeared in his hands, only a few grains of sand remaining. As the last grain began to fall, Leo understood with devastating clarity, time wasn't endless, it was the most precious currency he'd ever been given, and he'd spent it all on nothing. "Please," he whispered to the empty air, "one more chance." The world dissolved one last time. Leo gasped awake on his bedroom floor, the hourglass lying beside him with all its sand in the top chamber. His graduation ceremony started in 15 minutes. For a long moment, Leo simply stared at the hourglass, his heart pounding with the echoes of the life he'd just lived. Then he moved with purpose he'd never known. He threw on his cap and gown, grabbed the hourglass, and ran to the graduation. That night, while his classmates partied, Leo did something extraordinary. He restrung his guitar. He downloaded the language app again. He emailed his robotics teacher asking for summer mentorship. And he placed the hourglass on his desk where he'd see it every morning. The sand still fell, of course, but now Leo understood its true value, not as a threat, but as a gift. Each grain represented a moment he could use, not lose. Here is the truth about time that no one believes until it's almost gone. Time isn't slow, and it isn't fast. It's consistent. The problem isn't that we don't have enough time, it's that we misuse the time we have. Leo's story isn't about a magical hourglass. It's about that moment we all face when we realize that someday is not a day on the calendar, and tomorrow is the thief of dreams. Your hourglass is running right now, while you watch this video, while you scroll through your phone, while you tell yourself you'll start next week. But here's the good news. Unlike Leo, you don't need a magical vision to change your relationship with time. You just need to understand that the most important moment is always this one. Asking you one question that will define your future. What would you do today if you knew your hourglass was running low? The answer isn't meant to frighten you, it's meant to free you. Because value isn't measured by how much time you have, but by what you do with the time you're given. Your future self is watching right now. Make them proud.